Alrighty then. This is lesson 2, or I guess George Ramble's part 2, depending whether or not you're learning anything. In the last episode, we talked about 0 to 2 million. I discovered that Loon cuts videos off at 5 minutes and completely failed to add a video thumbnail to the bottom because apparently that's a whole different setting. So this is you learn about business and George learns about how to make videos. God, I feel boomer. Anyways, 0 to 2 million, recap, find market fit, prove market fit works, slap together a system that holds it all together, build it as big as you can, and then around a certain level, the wheels start to fall off if you try to go any faster. At that point, get some guy who really likes spreadsheets to tell you what it was that you did and which things you can stop doing safely and which things you should keep doing and do better. And that's roughly where usually I and my team come in and start working with people. Because one of the other main things that occurs at that point is people start considering the idea of selling. Usually that first 2 years or so that it took to get there was really stressful and painful. They never got paid anywhere near enough, and the dream just didn't materialize the way they wanted it to. Unfortunately, at this point, everyone is convinced that their business is also worth $30 million. And at that scale, it's not. This chart that I've had just kind of sitting in the background has been, I think it was created by somebody in Florida. I should find their name and give them credit because it is a fantastic chart. One of my partners found it and brought it to me. But it has been a phenomenal reference for explaining this concept to people. Basically, up until that point, you haven't really proven that the business is scalable. When somebody looks to buy it, they're going to look to see, can what you have done so far be increased and improved beyond that point? And if so, to what point can it be improved? If you leave, how much is it going to go down? And all of these concerns and risks are super reasonable. If you're buying a business, you're buying that business because you want the income from it. And if you can't prove that it's going to make more income, and worse, you're concerned that the guy that's selling it to you has the magic beans, and if he takes them away, there won't be any income, you're going to discount that cash flow pretty heavily, and you're not going to pay as much for it. And that's why that valuation multiple is as low as it is. So you can see down here we have EBITDA, and then we have the valuation multiple. The valuation multiple is how many times the annual income are people likely to pay. And your goal when you are selling a business is to get that number as high as possible, because multiplication is wonderful. Remember back to elementary school, but if you multiply numbers, they get bigger very, very quickly. We like that. That multiple, again, is just based off of structure and stability. The bright side is the things that make that multiple higher also tend to be the things that solve that $2 million plateau problem. And it's just getting the business organized, operational, and proving with data that this is how it worked. This is how it can continue to work. These are the people that want to buy it. Here's where there are more of them. Here's how we sell to them. You basically give them a step-by-step playbook for exactly how you made cash and how they can therefore buy your business and make more cash. The downside to making that playbook is that once you've written the playbook, it's really not that hard. So a lot of people just decide, cool, why don't I just keep doing it then? I've just written it down. This is way less stressful now. And you're right. So a lot of times what we'll end up doing is solve the problems for people. And then in the next 18 months to 3 years, they'll go from 2 million to 5 million. And that's just because now they have processes and operations organized. There's less water leaking out of that bucket, and things scale much more smoothly at that point. And then you start to hit a point where you're either saturating whatever region or market you're in, or you just physically can't keep track of enough moving parts. And usually during this process, you start hiring on more staff and more of a, I guess like a lieutenant structure is how he's got it framed. But the gist of it is more VPs or management team to help handle more and more of the lower aspects of it. And to get above 5 million, you effectively need to completely remove yourself and decentralize it. So that 5 to 10 block is breached by taking all of the decisions that you make and essentially algorithmizing them. It's basically saying, here's how this business runs. I want to build copies of it. Here is the exact structure that I use to do it. Here's how I think about it. Here is the parts of what I think about it that work versus don't work. And it's essentially just a much more extreme version of that 2 to 5 block. So usually what will happen is people get to that 5 block, and then it's surrender control, get a board, pass it out, put people in charge entirely, let them scale the same thing for you. Now, above 10, you basically are institutionalizing. This is, at this point, if you want, it is a completely different skill set. If you enjoy